Okay, next up it's going to be Apocalypse Games, a little bit adventure, the Chessboard War, book number 1, written by Grayson Sinclair. It has 562 pages, it is $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, and here's the author's description. The apocalypse game has begun and all of humanity is up for grabs. To the victor, go the spoils. My name is Killian Dunn. I'm 18, a high school senior, a gamer, and oh yeah, the harbinger of the apocalypse. Not exactly what I had in mind as a career path. Reality took a nosedive when Armageddon came a-knockin'. It brought with it classes, levels, and skills, as well as a horde of Lovecraftian abominations to use them on. I never wanted any of this, but the sick god who orchestrated this whole nightmare has my family. Their lives are forfeit if I refuse to play his game. He left me no choice but to accept my role and play my part, not as just another piece on the chessboard, but as the king, the demon lord of the black. But if I'm the villain, then there must also be a hero. I'm on the side of the white. On the side of the white stands the archangel, and they're as determined as I am to win. The prize, a single wish. With it, I can protect my family, fix everything that's broken, and save the whole world. I just have to destroy it first. Okay. In general, I've really enjoyed the RPG apocalypse subgenre of LitRPG. I think a lot of things are there in an inherent set of risks. It's the end of the world. You have monsters everywhere. There's a survival aspect that you also find co-mingling from like zombie apocalypse stories. However, this story didn't have much of that. And it didn't really work for me. The setup is okay. I get that the entire world is a RPG apocalypse with a specific set of game parameters. And I thought the faction versus faction like setup is actually like, okay, I haven't seen this very much before, so good on you. But the story felt really forced for me in a lot of ways, and that's a pet peeve of mine. And I can't get over that. And the more the story went on, the more I saw it again and again and again. When the author is, I felt like the author was taking away the decision-making process from the main characters, and he was forcing them down a particular path to fulfill a plotline or to fulfill particular game mechanic roles. And I never liked that. I hate to see the strings when a story character is kind of guided in a certain way. I know in every story that happens, it's a preformed story where somebody's writing it, but so I hate feeling like the character is forced. Because a lot of the things I enjoy in a literature story specifically is all the opportunities for choosing and for how you're going to advance. And that doesn't really exist here, unfortunately. The main character doesn't get a choice to become the demon lord. And over again, he reveals his big secret, despite ample evidence that people are going to assume he's evil just for having the class, which doesn't make sense from the first place. Like, why? This is a real world. This isn't some, it's like a fantasy world where people are like, "Oh, you're the demon lord. You must be evil. We have to kill you." Or I'm inherently angry at you. And part of that setup is part of that like discontinuity for me is that the author does something that's it's a choice, I guess. I just didn't like the way the story was set up, and that the RPG apocalypse starts. The holder is set here, and as the main character is talking to the guy who set it up, he's kind of advanced. He loses a month of the apocalypse, and everybody else gets a month to level up, a month to figure out the mechanics, a month to do whatever faction stuff or grouping stuff they're going to do. And so he starts a month. Why? I don't understand why that had to be the case, but that's another choice. But it does set up a lot of things that the reader isn't aware of, like all the things that have happened for these characters. And so there's a ton of world building that could have been done if the main character had kind of gone through things with everybody else. But instead he shows up as a noob and doesn't know what's happening, and so he keeps making mistakes repeatedly. And again, a lot of these things just felt like they were forced. Like the main character has to tell people he's the demon lord for some reason. And I understand in the story wise, a part of it revolves about him finding people to fill his faction roles, but that's what it felt like. It felt like these decisions were made to advance the plot, not because they were natural ones that a character in the situation would make on his own. And that really irked me because it felt like a forced story. And again, I know it's a pet peeve for me. It's not going to be for everybody, but it is what it is. Additionally, the game mechanics in the story, they exist and they're shown regularly, and there's some unique aspects to it, like the faction aspects or the different faction roles for characters the main character wants to put in those. But in addition, there are standard stuff like stat points and levels and abilities and powers that are unlocked as the main character levels. But it always felt like in the story when I was reading it that the stats really didn't mean a ton. If you were deficient in a stat, it didn't really impact the story in any way, shape, or form. If he added extra points to a particular group of stats, it didn't really change the way he fought. And that's mostly because when he used his demon lord abilities or powers, they seem to overpower what I would expect from a level 1 character, especially when you're considering he's a low level character. Everybody else is much higher level characters because they had a whole month to level grind. And yet he kind of overpowers them with his abilities. And so that's not really reflected, to me at least, in the stats aspect of the story. But what is here, notifications, the character sheets, all the abilities and skill descriptions, very consistent throughout their story as far as them existing. But there you go. Other than that, though, the other game mechanics felt fairly decent. And again, I thought the faction stuff was like, fairly original. Overall, action is pretty decent in the story. Bantering between characters is okay. Again, some of those relationships felt forced as well for me in how they exist and stuff that happened between the character and other characters, the main character and other characters outside of the existence of the story. And that's always the thing that bugs me too. Is like, you're talking about things that the reader's never going to get a chance to see. Or is it really explained? It's just like, we had a relationship and your memory was wiped though, and I'm never going to talk about it again. But here we are starting things over. I'm like, okay, whatever. So again, a lot of forced access for me that I just couldn't enjoy the story, unfortunately. Additionally, I never really felt a sense of danger for the main character or anyone in the story, really. Like I said, the other aspects of an RPG apocalypse, like resource limitations, like people vying for resources, I never really felt that here. Like there was never really a lot of danger for the main character. Even in the fights, it never really felt like he was going to lose. It never really felt like anybody was really in any danger, unfortunately, which is kind of a staple of RPG apocalypse. Like everybody could die at any instant. It's kind of a thing for that, in my opinion. At least. But other than that, that was it. Other folks really enjoy the story. There's lots of positive reviews here, so I always encourage you to go check out the book for yourself if you think it's going to be interesting. You're not sure, check out the sample, see if it rings, if it resonates with you. For me, though, the story just didn't work for the reasons I stated. For me, but again, not a bad story necessarily, just aspects didn't work for me. So for me, it gets a score 6 out of 10. That's Apocalypse Games, a LitRPG adventure chessboard war, book number 1, with a score of 6 out of 10.